Your life doesn't change when your problems disappear. It changes the moment your mind stops feeding the problem and starts practicing the solution. Most people never notice this. They wake up thinking about what's wrong. They talk about what's wrong. They complain about what's wrong. And the more they stare at the problem, the bigger, heavier, and more impossible it feels. They say, I'm stuck. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. But the truth is simple. They're not stuck because the problem is too big. They're stuck because their focus is pointed in the wrong direction. If you keep feeding the problem with your attention, you will keep getting the same life. Same stress, same fears, same reaction, different day. In this video, I want to teach you a different way to live. A solution-focused mindset. This is the mindset used by high performers, great leaders, and anyone who quietly turns setbacks into progress. Not by magic, not by pretending everything is fine, but by training their mind to ask, what can I do right now that actually helps? In the next few minutes, you're going to learn 10 solution-focused laws that will help you stop overthinking and start moving. Calm your emotions so your decision stay clear. Catch mental loops before they trap you. Act before fear grows out of control. And keep going when results feel painfully slow. These are not fluffy quotes. These are practical mental rules you can use today in your relationships, your work, your goals, and your daily challenges. And if you stay with me until the end, I'll give you one question that can pull you out of almost any mental spiral, any argument, any stressful day, and bring you back to clarity in seconds. My friend, you don't need a perfect life to move forward. You need a different focus. You can keep repeating the same story about how hard it is, or you can become the kind of person who says, yes, the problem is real, but so is my ability to respond. That's what this video is about. If you're ready to stop feeding problems and start building solutions, let's begin. Your life can change in one decision, the decision to take full responsibility for what happens from now on. Not responsibility for your past. Not responsibility for what others did. Not responsibility for what you didn't know back then, but responsibility for your response today. That decision is a turning point because it shifts your power back where it belongs in your hands. Most people don't realize this, but they stay stuck for one reason. They spend more energy explaining why they haven't changed than actually changing. They blame the past. They blame their job. They blame their environment. They blame their parents, relationships, timing, economy, luck. And blame always feels justified, doesn't it? But here's the truth. Blame is a full-time job that pays you nothing. Blaming doesn't build a skill. It doesn't create a plan. It doesn't move you forward. It only feeds the problem with your attention. And every time you feed it, the problem grows. Yes, your circumstances may have created your pain, but only your responsibility can create your progress. Responsibility doesn't mean something is your fault. It means you are now the one who will deal with it. Think of it like this. If someone drops a mess in your house, you didn't cause it. But if you wait for them to come back and clean it, you're going to live in chaos for a long time. Waiting keeps you stuck. Ownership gets you moving. High performers, great leaders, disciplined achievers. They don't waste time saying, why did this happen to me? They ask. Now that it happened, what can I do next? That question is the difference between reacting emotionally and responding intelligently, staying stuck in the story and building the solution, feeling powerless and becoming the one who changes the situation. When you take radical responsibility, you'll notice something immediately. Your focus stops chasing the problem and starts hunting for solutions. Instead of defending your pain, you start building your progress. Instead of waiting for someone to push you, you start pushing yourself. Instead of hoping life gets easier, you become someone who gets stronger. The moment you say, "This is my life, and I'm in charge now," your mindset changes, your habits change, your results change. Not because life becomes perfect, but because you stop waiting for perfect. This is not about guilt. It's about power. You don't need someone to rescue you. You don't need permission. You don't need approval. You need ownership. Ownership of your time, your effort, your decisions, your next step. Radical responsibility is a mindset that says, I may not control everything life brings, but I always control how I respond. And that response, not the problem itself, will determine your future. Now that your power is back in your hands, let's build the skill that protects your progress. Your life will always move in the direction of your focus, not in the direction of your goals, your intentions, or your dreams, but in the direction of what you repeatedly pay attention to. If your mind wakes up every morning scanning for what's wrong, life will feel heavy. If your attention keeps replaying what failed yesterday, tomorrow will look exactly the same. Not because nothing can change, but because your focus refuses to move forward. Most people think they're stuck because the situation is hard. They're not. They're stuck because their attention is trapped in the wrong place. Focus is not automatic. It's trained, and right now, your mind is trained to chase whatever feels loud: overthinking, stress, comparison, fear, distractions, regret. Your brain isn't choosing these on purpose. It just hasn't been taught to choose anything better. It's like a flashlight that keeps pointing at the problem because no one taught it how to point toward progress. So what does solution-focused thinking do differently? It stops asking, "What's wrong with this?" and starts asking, "What can I build from this?" It stops feeding the frustration and starts feeding the future. Your focus must be deliberate, not reactive. Because where your attention goes, your energy follows. And where your energy goes, your results grow. If your attention is constantly trapped in anger, your life will be nothing but reaction. If your attention is locked on doubt, every opportunity will look risky. If your attention keeps hunting for problems, you will live in a world full of them. Why? Because your brain will always prove what you focus on, but the opposite is also true. If you train your attention to look for opportunity, your mind will find one. If you train your attention to ask, "What's one step forward?" your mind will show you a step. If you train your attention to seek clarity, you will start making intelligent, calm decisions, even in chaos. Focus is a skill, and like any skill, it grows through repetition. Here's how to strengthen it. Notice what's stealing your focus. Is it your phone? Is it a person? Is it a fear you keep feeding? You can't redirect what you won't notice. Interrupt the loop. If a thought keeps repeating without leading anywhere, don't fight it. Don't argue with it. Just say, "This is not helping me. I'm choosing something else." That sentence breaks the cycle. Redirect toward something useful. Ask yourself, what small action would move me forward right now, not tomorrow, not after you feel ready, Now, that question shifts your attention from emotion to progress, from overwhelm to clarity, from reaction to leadership. You don't need perfect focus. You need better focus than yesterday. Even 5 minutes of real attention can move your life more than 5 hours of distraction. Train your focus to follow growth, not emotion, and you'll stop feeling stuck, not because your problems disappear, but because your mind stops living inside them. Now that your focus is stronger, it's time to remove the one thing that makes problems grow bigger than they really are. Fear is rarely the problem. The real problem is how long you give it room to grow. A challenge appears, and at first, it's just a step, a phone call, a decisión, a conversation, a commitment. But the longer you wait, the bigger it becomes. Your mind begins to exaggerate it. Your imagination stretches it. The step becomes a mountain, not because it's truly hard, but because you've given fear time to build a story around it. Here's how fear works. It multiplies while you hesitate. It gains power while you analyze. It feeds itself with worst-case scenarios imagined in silence. It grows in the space between knowing what to do and actually doing it. Most people think they're waiting for confidence, but confidence doesn't come before action. Confidence comes after you move. Courage doesn't show up first. It shows up because you started moving. Waiting feels safe, but it's the most dangerous habit you can build. Because waiting becomes a pattern, you wait for clarity. You wait for motivation. You wait for certainty, and one day you look back and realize you've been waiting for years. Fear is not a signal to stop. Fear is a signal to start before the feeling grows. It doesn't mean rush blindly. It means move intentionally, early. While the problem is still small, think about it. A difficult conversation is simpler today than after weeks of avoidance. A habit is easier to build now than after years of procrastination. A goal is easier to start while it's still uncomfortable than after fear convinces you it's impossible. If you want to break the cycle, you must build one powerful habit. Move before your mind has time to negotiate. Your brain is designed to protect you, but it doesn't know the difference between danger and discomfort. So when something matters, something that could change your life, your brain says, wait, think, be careful. Not because it's hard, but because it's unfamiliar. That's why you don't defeat fear by thinking. You defeat it by doing something that proves your ability to act. Not a huge step, not a perfect step, just a real one. Send the message. Start the workout. Make the call. Open the book. Say the truth. Begin the process. Action shrinks fear. Movement builds momentum. Momentum gives you confidence. And suddenly, the problem that looked impossible becomes a step you're already walking through. If you wait until you feel fully ready, you will never move. Because readiness is not a feeling you wait for, it's a feeling you earn by beginning. You don't need to conquer fear. You just need to stop feeding it time. Act early. Act small. Act now. This is how you stop letting fear create your future. Now that you know how to move before fear multiplies, let's learn how to stay strong when life doesn't go your way. Setbacks are not signs that you're failing. They are moments that reveal how much leadership you have over yourself. Everyone gets knocked off track. Everyone faces disappointment, resection, delays, confusion, unexpected loss. or plans that fall apart without warning. But those moments don't define your future. What defines your future is your reaction. Most people don't lose to the problem. They lose to the emotional reaction that follows the problem, the frustration, the panic, the discouragement, the blame, the self-doubt. Those reactions pull you into a mindset where you don't think clearly, don't act wisely, and don't move forward at all. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Many people stay stuck, not because of what happened, but because they refuse to take ownership of how they react to what happened. Taking ownership of your reaction doesn't mean pretending the situation is okay. It doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means choosing your response instead of letting emotion choose it for you. Think of emotion as a storm. If you jump into action in the middle of the storm, you don't make progress. You just create a mess. You say things you don't mean. You make decisions. You regret. You walk away from things you want. You give up on goals that were actually working. That's why leaders, high performers, and emotionally intelligent people do something different. They pause. That pause is power. That pause is maturity. That pause is where you shift from reacting to responding. During that pause, instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" they ask, "How can I show up stronger than this moment?" Because setbacks are not asking you to solve everything instantly. They're asking you to lead yourself. Reacting is automatic. Responding is intentional. Reacting is emotional. Responding is intelligent. Reacting is about the past. Responding is about the future. And your future will always be shaped by the quality of your response. Let's break this down with clarity. Your reaction shows your habits. If your habit is to blame, you'll blame again. If your habit is to panic, you'll panic again. If your habit is to quit, you'll quit again. Your reaction isn't random. It's a pattern. You can't change your life without changing your patterns. A setback reveals what still needs work. Setbacks don't show you how weak you are. They show you where you still need to grow. If you got angry too fast, that's a sign. If you shut down emotionally, that's a sign. If you avoided responsibility, that's a sign. Those signals are not insults, they're information. Ownership gives you control over the next step. You cannot control what just happened, but you can control what you do next. And the next step matters more than the setback itself. When you take ownership, you shrink the problem and expand your ability to respond. Control the story your mind is telling. Your first emotional reaction is rarely the truth. It's a storyline created by fear, ego, or frustration. But when you pause, that storyline loses power. You can see the situation more clearly. You can ask better questions. You can choose a response that supports your growth, and that response builds something no one can take away from you: self-respect. When you handle setbacks with clarity, you trust yourself more. When you trust yourself, you think better. When you think better, you choose better. And when you choose better, your life evolves. Your goal is not to avoid setbacks. Your goal is to become someone who doesn't break under them, someone who breathes before reacting, someone who learns before responding, someone who grows stronger, not smaller. In the face of difficulty, setbacks are temporary. But the maturity to own your reaction, that's a skill you carry for life. Own how you respond, and you will not just survive problems, you will rise through them. Now that you know how to lead your reactions. It's time to master the mind itself. One of the quietest, most invisible ways people stay stuck is through circular thinking. It feels like thinking, it looks like thinking, but it produces no clarity, no decision, and no progress. It's the mental habit of replaying the same worry, the same what if, the same outcome, the same fear again and again without ever moving toward a solution. This is why so many people say they're exhausted, but not advancing. They're not tired from action. They're tired from thinking without movement. Circular thinking happens when your mind tries to solve a problem without making a decision. It loops, it repeats, and every time the loop comes back, it gets heavier, louder, and more emotional. You're not learning anything new. You're just reliving the same thought in a different sentence. Here's the truth. Thinking becomes a trap the moment it replaces action. Your brain believes it's being productive. It feels like effort. It feels like preparation. But without a next step, thinking turns into anxiety disguised as reflection. So the first step to breaking this cycle is awareness, not judgment, not forcing your mind to stop thinking, just noticing this is the same thought again. There's nothing new here. I'm not solving anything. I'm looping. That awareness breaks the spell. The moment you notice the loop, you gain the power to interrupt it. And here's how you interrupt it. Ask a better question. Circular thinking asks, why is this happening? What if it goes wrong? What if I'm not ready? What if I fail? Solution-focused thinking asks, what small action would actually help right now? Not the perfect action, not the final plan, not the whole answer. Just the next step that reduces confusion. Instead of feeding it, one small step does something your mind cannot do on its own. It gives your brain real information instead of imagined outcomes. Action gives clarity. Movement gives relief. Reality gives feedback. And feedback kills fear faster than overthinking ever will. Sometimes that step is practical. Send the message. Write the plan. Ask for help. Start the task. Sometimes that step is emotional. Take a walk. Drink water. Sit in silence for 3 minutes. Journal your thoughts instead of looping them. Action doesn't have to solve everything. It just needs to stop the loop. Because clarity isn't found in your head. Clarity is built by doing. Here's the key rule. If a thought repeats more than twice without a new insight, stop thinking and start acting. That's how you protect your energy. That's how you protect your momentum. That's how you stop fear from engineering worst-case scenarios out of thin air. You don't need to control every thought. You just need to catch the loop early enough to shift into movement, catch it, interrupt it, redirect it. That's how you train a solution-focused mind, not by thinking harder, but by thinking less about the problem and more about the next step. Now that you've learned how to break mental loops, it's time to build the space that allows clear thinking to happen. Most people don't make bad choices because they're foolish. They make bad choices because they're rushed. When something goes wrong, their emotions speed up, their breathing shortens, their thoughts race. And suddenly they feel pressured to fix everything right now. But urgency rarely leads to wisdom. Panic convinces you that immediate action is the solution, when in reality, rushed action is just emotional reaction wearing a disguise. Here's the truth. The first decision you make in panic is usually the wrong one. Why? Because panic narrows your vision. It makes you see only what hurts, only what's missing, only what feels urgent right now. It blinds you to options, to resources, to timing, to strategy. A solution-focused mind doesn't rush, it creates space. Not space to avoid the problem, space to see clearly. When your emotions are loud, your logic becomes quiet. So you must quiet the emotion first, not by ignoring it, but by slowing down enough to think. This silence, this pause, isn't weakness. It's discipline. It's the moment where you regain leadership of your mind. Let's break it down. A pause separates the situation from your story about it. Something happens. Your brain instantly creates a story. This is terrible. Something bad is coming next. I can't handle this. Those stories turn discomfort into danger. But if you pause, breathe, and let your nervous system calm down, the story loses intensity. You can finally see what's real instead of what's imagined. Thinking clearly requires physical space. Clear thinking is not just mental, it's physical. Breathe deeply. Relax your shoulders. Step outside. Sit down alone for 5 minutes. Slow your movement so your thoughts can slow down too. Your body teaches your mind how to feel. You don't need answers immediately. You need direction. Most panic comes from believing you need a complete solution right now. You don't. You just need the next intelligent step, and you only find that step by thinking, not reacting. Ask yourself, what matters most right now? Not, how do I fix everything? Just, what's the smartest first move? Strategy is built one calm question at a time. If others are pressuring you to decide fast, protect your clarity. People who want instant decisions usually care about their comfort, not your outcome. You don't owe anyone a rushed reaction. You're allowed to say, I need a moment to think. That sentence protects your life from impulsive choices that don't reflect who you are or what you want long term. Calm is not avoiding action. Calm is preparing for action. Panic is loud and chaotic. Calm is quiet and powerful. Calm doesn't delay the solution, it strengthens it. You build calm through practice. Breathe before responding. Walk before deciding. Listen before reacting. Wait before assuming. In silence, your perspective widens. Your emotions settle. Your intelligence returns. This is how strong minds operate, not by being fast, but by being steady, because a rushed life is reactive, but a steady life is strategic. Create space first. Act second. Do that consistently. And your decisions will stop being emotional corrections and start becoming intelligent choices. Now that you know how to slow the mind down, let's learn the question that turns clarity into action in any situation. Most people don't stay stuck because they don't care. They stay stuck because they keep doing what feels urgent instead of what actually helps. When pressure rises, stress takes over, and things start to feel overwhelming. The mind wants relief, not progress. So instead of solving the problem, it looks for something to blame, something to complain about, something to overthink, something to avoid, something to postpone, something to numb the discomfort. These behaviors feel like action, but they don't improve anything. They only waste time and energy while the problem grows bigger. That's why you need one simple, a powerful question. A question that can break emotional habits, reset your thinking, and pull you out of chaos. What would actually help right now? Not what impresses people, not what feels easy, not what makes you look productive, Not what distracts you from the discomfort, just what helps. This question cuts through the noise. It pushes your mind away from emotion and back into direction. It doesn't care how you feel. It cares about what works. Let's look at how powerful this question is. It forces you to think in the present, not in fear. Stress lives in the past. Why did this happen? And in the future. What if this gets worse? But progress only happens here, in the moment. Asking what helps right now brings you back to the present, where solutions actually exist. It exposes the difference between reacting and solving. Our reaction says, I'm tired. I should complain. A solution says, what would help my energy? Sleep, water, a walk. Saying no. A reaction says, this person is frustrating me. A solution says, what conversation would make this clear and calm? A reaction says, everything is too much. A solution says, what one task matters most today? Small, honest actions move life forward. Complaining, delaying, and overthinking keep you in place. It turns emotion into strategy. You don't need to feel calm to make a useful choice. You just need to make one step that moves you forward. Instead of arguing, listen first. Instead of worrying, write the next step down. Instead of panicking, breathe and ask a better question. Instead of waiting to feel ready, start small now. It teaches emotional maturity. Anyone can react. Anyone can stress out. Anyone can spiral. But very few people stop themselves long enough to ask what truly helps. That question is the difference between being ruled by your feelings and being led by your purpose. The answer is often small, not dramatic. Sometimes what helps right now is drinking water, taking a 10-minute break, cleaning your workspace, sending one message, saying, I need time to think, clarifying your goal, doing the first 1% of the task, small actions. Remove emotional pressure and create momentum. You don't need a breakthrough. You need direction. Here's your rule. Before you act, ask what helps. Then do that, even if it's small, especially if it's small, because progress doesn't come from big moves. It comes from consistent choices that actually improve your situation. Ask the question. Act on it. Repeat daily. Now that you know how to choose action over emotion, let's replace one of the biggest energy drains in life with forward motion. Nothing destroys progress more quietly than complaining. It feels innocent. It feels small. It even feels justified. But every time you complain, you spend energy describing what's wrong instead of changing what's wrong. Complaining gives you release, not results. It lets you express frustration, but it doesn't move your life forward even 1 inch. You can complain for hours and still be right where you started. Here's the truth. Most people avoid complaining doesn't fix the problem. It feeds it. It feeds discouragement. It feeds resentment. It feeds victim mentality. It feeds the belief that life happens to you instead of being shaped by you. People waste entire weeks talking about how tired they are, how unfair things feel, how difficult someone is, how slow progress is, and yet nothing changes. Not because the problem is unsolvable, but because they're building a habit of expressing instead of improving. So here's the shift. Replace complaining with one useful action every day, not a perfect action, not a big action, just one step that actually helps the situation, because the moment you take that step, your brain learns something powerful. I can make progress even when I don't feel like it. And that belief changes everything. Let's break this down. Complaining feels like release, but drains your energy. It feels good for a moment, but it leaves you more stuck. more frustrated, and more helpless afterward. It creates emotional exhaustion without producing progress. Action builds momentum, even when it's small. When you take one useful step, clean your space, send the message, apologize, start the task. Finish what you avoided. Your system shifts from reacting to progressing. Your mind stops spiraling and starts moving. Complaining is effortless. That's why most people do it. It requires no skill, no courage, no intelligence, no growth. That's why it's so tempting. But here's the key. Ease is a trap. Growth requires intention. One action can neutralize the complaint entirely. Instead of saying, "I'm tired," go rest for 20 minutes or rehydrate. My job is stressful. Delegate one task or set one boundary. People never listen. Communicate with clarity, not frustration. "I'm overwhelmed." Choose one priority, not 10. You don't have to solve the whole situation. You just have to stop feeding it with words and start shifting it with effort. The goal is not silence. The goal is responsibility. You can recognize a problem. You can feel frustrated. You can express emotion, but once it's said, do something. Don't relive the complaint. Redirect the energy. Here's your rule for life. The moment you want to complain, take one useful step instead. If you build that habit for 30 days, you will notice something incredible. You feel more in control. You waste less time. You solve problems faster. You recover from stress quicker. People respect you more. You respect yourself more. Because progress is not built by people who describe their problems, but by people who build their way out of them. Replace complaining with action, and your life will shift from emotional reaction to intentional growth. Now that we've replaced negativity with useful action, let's build the emotional discipline that protects every decision you make. When emotions take over, clarity disappears. You already know this. You've lived it. Think about the last time you reacted too fast. You said something you regretted. You made a decision you didn't really mean. You avoided an opportunity because fear got loud. Nothing was wrong with your potential. Nothing was wrong with your ability. The problem was simple. You weren't calm. A chaotic mind cannot make wise decisions. A tense mind cannot think clearly. And an overwhelmed mind will always choose what's comfortable, not what's right. Emotion isn't the enemy. Impulsiveness is. Your emotions are signals, not instructions. They're messages, not commands. Anger shows you what feels unfair. Fear warns you about risk. Sadness shows you what matters. Stress shows you where you're overloaded. But they are not meant to choose for you. When emotions make decisions, you end up reacting instead of responding, quitting instead of learning, fighting instead of communicating, running instead of solving. Real strength is not never feeling emotional. Real strength is leading your emotions, not following them. To do that, you don't need to eliminate feelings. You need to pause long enough to see clearly. The 3-second power pause. The moment you feel a surge, anger, fear, panic, defensiveness, train yourself to do one thing first. Pause before you respond. Not forever, just 3 seconds. Those 3 seconds protect your reputation. They protect your relationships. They protect your future. That pause gives your mind time to think instead of letting your emotions think for you. Here's what calm looks like, and it's not silence. Breathe before you speak. Think before you text. Observe before you assume. Respond when grounded, not when triggered. This does not make you weak. It makes you powerful. Because when you're calm, you see options. You think long term. You communicate wisely. You stay aligned with your values. Calm is a skill, not a personality trait. Some people say, I'm just emotional. That's how I am. No, that's how you've trained yourself. You can train yourself differently. Here's how breathe deeply. It physically resets your brain. Your nervous system can't panic and breathe slowly at the same time. Delay decisions when emotions are high. If you're heated, tired, overwhelmed, or triggered, wait. Ask yourself what really matters here. Not how do I feel right now, but what outcome do I want? This question pulls you out of emotion and into intention. Don't respond to every reaction people give you. Other people's emotions don't have to control your behavior. Your calm is not for them, it's for you. Strong people feel deeply, but act wisely. They don't suppress emotion. They direct it. They don't explode. They stay grounded. They don't let pressure decide their choices. They choose first and let emotions follow their decision. Your emotions can exist, but they do not get to lead your life. The day you learn to calm your emotional reactions is the day you protect your future decisions, because feelings are temporary, but consequences are not. Now that we've learned to think clearly under pressure, let's build the perseverance that keeps you moving forward even when life feels slow. Progress doesn't always look inspiring. Most of the time, it's not loud, dramatic, or obvious. There are no fireworks, no applause, no instant proof that what you're doing is working. That's the moment where most people quit, not because they lack potential, but because they lack patience. They confuse lack of visible results with lack of progress. Slow results are still results. Think about nature. Seeds don't sprout the moment they're planted. Roots grow underground long before anything appears on the surface. The growth is invisible, but it's happening. Your progress works the same way. Before your life changes on the outside, your habits must change on the inside. Your discipline must strengthen. Your mindset must mature. That internal work takes time, and that time is where most people give up. The real reason people quit. People don't quit because it's too hard. They quit because it feels pointless. They don't see immediate results, so they assume there won't be any. But results don't come before consistency. They come because of consistency. You don't earn confidence. First, you build it by showing up. You don't get motivation. First, you create it by taking action. You don't see results first. You generate them by staying in the process longer than your emotions want to. Growth isn't about speed. It's about direction. Someone who moves slowly but steadily will always surpass someone who moves fast, but only when they feel like it. A slow step forward still moves you. A fast step followed by quitting brings you back to zero. You're not stuck because progress is slow. You're only stuck if you stop the discipline that keeps you moving. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. You won't feel motivated every day. You won't always see immediate results. You won't always be praised for your effort. But results are building quietly in the background as long as you stay consistent in the foreground. Consistency is not glamorous. It doesn't feel exciting. It feels repetitive, ordinary, even boring at times. But that's exactly where transformation happens. Not in big bursts, but in quiet repetitions. One more rep at the gym, one more page read, one more call made, one more hour of focus, One more day of discipline. You're closer than you think. Most people quit right before the breakthrough. They stop watering the seed. They stop pushing after months of effort. They walk away because they can't see the roots growing. Don't be one of those people. The result you want is often one more decision, one more habit, one more week of persistence away. Slow is not a bad sign. Slow is how strong is built fast. Success often collapses. Why? Because people weren't ready to sustain it. Slow success is different. It builds character, discipline, emotional maturity, and clarity. It prepares you not just to win, but to keep winning. Keep moving forward. You don't need speed. You need consistency. You don't need perfect results today. You need action today. You don't need everything to change at once. You just need to make sure you don't stop. If you don't quit, your results have no choice but to catch up. Stay steady. Stay patient. Stay committed. Because the life you want is already growing. It's just growing beneath the surface right now. Your life won't change when you feel ready. It won't change when the world becomes easier. It won't change the moment your problems disappear. Your life changes the moment you stop feeding problems and start building solutions. Not someday, not when motivation magically arrives, but today with the next action you choose. Stop waiting. Stop complaining. Stop replaying the same excuses. Start leading your mind. Start choosing clarity over reaction. Start being the person who takes solutions seriously. Because the strongest version of you is already inside you, but it only appears when you act before fear. Focus with intention. Stay calm under pressure. And keep going even when progress is slow. You don't need approval. You don't need perfection. You just need consistency. If you're tired of problems owning your life, if you're ready to reclaim your focus, your discipline, and your direction, then make a decision right now. I will build solutions, not excuses. I will lead my life, not react to it. I will move forward even when it's slow. If this message hits you deeply, don't stop here. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss another mindset shift that forces your life to level up. And comment below which part of today's video woke you up the most. Your answer might inspire someone else to stop focusing on problems and start building solutions. Today, this is your moment. Use it. Let's grow. Let's build. Let's rise.